Hey guys, Mr. Zern here. Welcome back. Today, we're going to be talking about two things. One, how to lists and how to create them, and then for loops. And for loops are great for working with lists. So let's take a look here, get some notes rolling. So first, let's just jump in and learn something new. And this is creating a list, or in this case, an empty list. So creating a list is very simple. We're going to declare a variable. I'll give it the super exciting name of my list equals. And then at this point, I'm, basically creating a variable. And if I was to add a string or an integer or something like that, we'd have just a simple variable we've done before. Now, a list is just a little different, and it's simply the square brackets there. And so this has created an empty list. Now, let me just print it, and we're going to see that really absolutely nothing is going to happen. But we could do that. So print my list. Okay, let's run. And you can just see it just gives me the square brackets because nothing's inside. But that is how you would create a list. So let's take it one step further. And again, something new here. And so this time, let's creating a list with something in it. All right. So let's take a look at that. All right. Oh my gosh, it keeps changing that, and that gets old quick. With something in it. There we go. Okay, excellent. So I'm just going to use the same variable and just kind of write over it. So my list equals and then square bracket, and let's put some. I'm going to put some strings in there. Notice that I have them in quotation marks. So I've got Darth Vader. I've got Luke Skywalker. I've got good old Yoda. All right, a little Yoda laugh for you. I've got Han Solo. Solo. And let's add one more. We have Princess Leia, of course. All right, so here I've taken my list and I basically have put 5 things on the list. So let's do this again. Let's just print the list. So print my list. All right, and let's run the program and see what happens this time. All right, so we can see here it prints Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, Yoda, Han Solo, Princess Leia. Don't worry about the hyphenation there. It's just the way the program runs. Okay, cool. So there's that. Let's do some quick review here. It's going to be more important as we keep going, and adding a line break because we don't want to mash all of this together. So again, hopefully at this point you remember that. But print, and I'll do an apostrophe since this is sort of like a non-visible piece here, and then that's just going to simply add a kind of a line break between them. Okay, so we've learned how to create a list. So simply declare a variable equals square bracket. We learned how to put things inside of the list. Again, declare the variable equals square bracket, and then in this case, I've just got a couple strings there separated by commas. And so now let's talk about doing something with a for loop. So again, something new here. So new, and this is a for loop. And for loops are great because they will run every single time for as many items as there are in a list. Now, this is simple. I know there's 5 things in that list, but later we're going to get into it where you will never know how many items are going to be in the list because it's going to be up to the user to add things to that list. And so, a while loop works great when I know how many times I want something to run. But in this case, I don't necessarily know how many times it's going to run, or we won't in the very near future. So this is a for loop, and instead of while something, a for loop, hint, surprise, surprise, starts off with for. So for, and now I'm basically creating a local variable. So if you remember back, we've had global variables and they work anywhere inside of a program. And then we also have local variables that only kind of work inside. Now with App Inventor, it was inside of, that event handler. Here in Python, this variable only works inside of, this little loop here. So I'm declaring a local variable. In this case, I called it item, but you could call it anything. You could call it thing. You could call it birds. You could call it, we could even stick with the Star Wars theme and call it lightsaber, whatever you want. I usually just work with item. And so the local variable in this case is item. So I just declared this a local variable. So for item in, and then I have to say, well, in where? All right. And so in this case, my list. All right. Now, eventually you'll have more than one list inside of a program. And so, obviously want to use the right name. So for item in list, and then like a while loop, we need the colon here at the end. So it's important to include that. So for item in list, enter. Notice it automatically tabs me in. That's super important. And then I want to print, and then we can, do something like this. So print item. And it's going to print it differently than it did up here. All right, so let me run it and we'll see what happens. All right, so here's that initial list, just kind of did it this way. And in a for loop, it just kind of runs them straight down the page. So Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, Yoda, Han Solo, Princess Leia. A little prettier than this. Now let me back up a step here and we could concatenate it with something. So for example, I'm going to add like a string and say, I like, and we'll do that there. And say, for items in list, print this. And so let's run that program. And you can see it says, I like Darth Vader, I like Luke Skywalker, I like Yoda, I like Han Solo, I like Princess Leia. All right, so there we go. All right, so that's some good stuff. And again, I've entered down, important to backspace so I can get outside of that for loop. Otherwise, everything that I'm going to do is going to be stuck inside of it. So make sure to backspace out. And you can see, if you take a look there, you can see my indent. All right, so I'm just simply going to add a line break there, just kind of make it a little easier to read and see. Let me scroll us up a bit. All right, so we got some review here, and again, creating a list. Now this list is going to be a little different than what we've seen before. So I'm going to have my second list. All right, so again, these super exciting variable names. I'm going to put some things inside the list, but this time I'm just going to put some integers, some numbers. So 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. Okay, so I've created a list, and instead of, I had some strings in the first one, now I've simply have some integers. You can put floats, you can put anything in here, but in this case, I'm going to work with some numbers, some integers. All right, so just to kind of, again, we've seen this before, print, and I'm going to say, print my second list. All right, so let's run that quick and see what we get. And you can see I've got the line break, and it just lists them right there. All right, so cool. We've seen that. All right, so that's something kind of new. In this case, just numbers. Add another little line break. Oops, line break there. Okay, so let's take a look here now. So something new. And in this case, we are going to be performing some mathematical operations to items in the list. Okay. 100% sure why that's. Oh, I know. I forgot the hashtag. There we go. That's why we're getting some error messages. Okay, so for item in my, and so this case here, we're grabbing for item in my second list. I want you to do something. So we've seen this before. So item, and instead of printing something, I'm going to first do something. So I'm going to have asterisk equals 2. And what this is going to do is it's going to multiply each item in my list by 2. All right. So let's return down and go to print and say item, and we'll run this program. And you can see my initial numbers, all right, my initial integers, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. You can see it is multiplied each one by 2. So 2, 6, 10, 14, 18, 22, 26. All right. I'm going to copy that here so I can kind of show you this in a different way. So it doesn't have to be multiplying. We could do other things, such as I could add 2. So I've got item plus equals 2. So basically, again, for each item in the list, add 2. And I'm going to probably just add a line break there so it's easy to see. Let's run that. All right, so we can see here, initial number was 1, we added 2, it becomes 3. The initial number was 3, we add 2, it becomes 5. All right. Copy that again. Be sure to backspace out to get outside of that for loop. And this time we're going to, instead of add, subtract. So for each item in my second list, item minus 2. All right, and then print it. Now notice, like, it keeps going back to the initial set of numbers, even though in the first one I multiplied it by 2, and in the second one I added 2. And that's because item is a local variable. It's a local variable, so it's only changing it inside of this for loop. All right, the initial list is unchanged. All right, that's something different. We'll talk about that a little later, but that's what's going on there. So let me hit run on that. And you'll see now, again, first number was 1. We subtracted 2. It's now -1. Second number was 3. We subtracted 2. And you can see now that it's 1. All right, we're going to do this one more time. All right, so for each item in my list, I would like you to divide by 2. I would like you to divide by 2. So let's run that. And again, we see the first number is 1, and when we divide 1 by 2, we get 0.5. And the second number is 3, and when we divide that by 2, we get 1.5. So we can perform mathematical operations to the items in our list. Now, that obviously wouldn't work with a string. Would have to be a float or an integer, but we can see how we can do those pieces there. So just kind of recap, 2 big things here. One was creating a list. And so creating a list starts off just like creating any other variable, because a list is a type of variable. We've got my list equals and then square bracket. All right, and that creates an empty list. And we're going to get into empty lists and adding things to them in the next lesson. But probably for this one, you're going to be declaring your list and then just simply adding, various items into it. And so in this first one, I've got strings. And so, again, quotation marks to, highlight that it's a string, and then just simply, adding commas for all the items in the list. And then again, we could just print my list. And then we got into a for loop. And so for every item in the list, do something. And again, so I in this first one here, I concatenate it. Said, hey, just basically add the string I like to the item. And all right, and it just said, I like Darth Vader, I like Skywalker, etc. We created that second list. In this case, we put integers in there, and in this time, for each item in the list, I was printing something. And so I could even concatenate that here, just to kind of show you. I could say something like, when I add 2 to the number, comma, I get, and again, quotation mark, comma. And so let's print that and see what happens. There it is. When I add to the number, I get, and 2, I get 6, I get 10, I get 14, so on and so forth there. So we concatenate those as well with a string. String and an integer together. All right, so we perform just the various mathematical operations there. So item asterisk, so that's multiply, by 2. Here we have item plus 2. Here we have item minus 2. Here we have item divided by 2. All right, so I hope those make sense. I got the notes there for you in Schoology. And once you've taken a look at that, see if you can do the assignment there. I also have a video for that demonstration. All right, talk to you guys later. Goodbye.